When The Nun was released in 2018, audiences recoiled at the sight of its villain, a pale, demonic figure dressed in sacred robes, its hollow eyes peering out from beneath a nun's habit. It was a face of pure evil, haunting convents, shadowing priests, and turning holy places into nightmares. To many, Valak seemed like the perfect invention of Hollywood horror, a nightmare stitched together from imagination. But the truth is far more unsettling. Valak is not a random creation. His name appears in ancient demonology texts dating back hundreds of years, whispered in grimoires that catalogue the hierarchy of hell itself. These writings describe him not as a veiled nun, but as a king of demons, a spirit with powers that terrified occult practitioners and religious scholars alike. The filmmakers didn't pull him from thin air. They pulled him from history, and that is what makes The Nun so deeply disturbing. It's not simply a story of good versus evil, but a tale rooted in real accounts, in rituals once practiced in secret, and in names that were never meant to be spoken aloud. Tonight, we peel back the cinematic veil and step into the shadows of history to uncover the chilling truth, the real lore that inspired The Nun. Long before The Nun terrified audiences in theaters, the name Valak was already carved into the pages of occult history. Known by variations such as Valak, Walak, or Volak, this entity has been whispered about for centuries, appearing in some of the most infamous grimoires, books of dark knowledge that catalogue demons and the rituals used to summon them. Among these is the Lesser Key of Solomon, a 17th century text feared for its detailed descriptions of spirits said to serve under the command of hell itself. According to these writings, Valak is no mere shadow or whisper. He holds the title of President of Hell, commanding 30 legions of demons, a position of immense authority in the hierarchy of the underworld. But here's where the truth diverges sharply from cinema. Valak was never described as a nun. In fact, ancient texts portray him as a child with angelic wings, sitting astride a two-headed dragon, an image both bizarre and terrifying in its innocence twisted by power. His powers too carried a disturbing allure. Valak was believed to reveal hidden knowledge, uncover buried treasures, and grant mastery over serpents, creatures long associated with deception and death. But none of these gifts came freely. Occultists wrote that summoning him required dangerous rituals, offerings of blood, and complete loyalty, with the price often being more than the summoner bargained for. When filmmakers reimagined Valak for The Conjuring 2 and later The Nun, they did something clever. They gave this obscure demon a new form, one that would strike fear instantly, the visage of a holy sister corrupted. Yet beneath that creative decision lies a chilling truth. The name Valak is not fantasy, nor was it invented for Hollywood. It is a fragment of very real demonology, a name passed down through centuries of whispered warnings and forbidden texts. By reshaping this ancient demon into the terrifying figure of a nun, the filmmakers blurred the line between folklore and cinema, making the story feel like more than fiction, and reminding us that sometimes the darkest monsters on screen have roots in very real, very old fears. The setting of The Nun, an isolated convent in Romania, was not chosen by accident. Eastern Europe has always carried a reputation for being a land steeped in superstition, where folklore, faith, and fear often walk hand in hand. From vampire legends in Transylvania to stories of cursed monasteries hidden deep within the Carpathian Mountains, the region's spiritual history is thick with shadows. To place a demon like Valak within this environment feels less like invention and more like uncovering a tale that was waiting to be told. Though the Abbey of St. Carter seen in the film is fictional, Romania is filled with real stories of holy sites touched by darkness, churches built on ancient pagan burial grounds, abbeys where monks recorded strange lights and phantom figures, and convents where nuns claimed nightly battles with unseen entities. These were not just tales whispered to frighten children. They were documented, accounts that blurred the boundary between faith and fear. The phenomenon of nuns experiencing possession or visions has deep roots in religious history. One of the most infamous examples occurred far from Romania, in Loudun, France, during the 17th century. There, an entire convent of Ursuline nuns claimed to be tormented by demonic forces. Witnesses described the women convulsing, speaking in tongues, and accusing priests of witchcraft. The case was so explosive that it drew the attention of the Catholic Church, and remains one of the most controversial possession cases in history. By setting the nun in a Romanian convent, the filmmakers tapped into this long tradition of cloistered horror. Sacred spaces that were meant to be sanctuaries instead becoming prisons of fear. For centuries, monasteries and convents have been seen as battlegrounds between the holy and the profane, where prayers clash against shadows that refuse to be banished. So, while the Abbey of St. Carter may not exist on a map, the terror it embodies is rooted in very real accounts. Within those quiet stone walls, beneath the flicker of candlelight, history tells us that the sacred has often been corrupted, and sometimes even faith itself wasn't enough to keep the darkness away. The true horror of the nun lies not just in its shadowy corridors or sudden scares, but in the disturbing reality that inspired it. Behind the film's chilling atmosphere stands the influence of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the world's most famous paranormal investigators. The Warrens claim to have encountered Valak in their casework, not as a fictional monster, but as a real entity that revealed itself through visions and manifestations. Lorraine, in particular, often spoke about an unshakable image of a demonic figure shrouded in religious clothing, as if mocking the sacred itself. This detail is crucial, because in demonology, disguises are everything. Occult historians explain that demons rarely reveal their true forms. Instead, they twist symbols of purity, bending them into grotesque parodies. A nun, a symbol of holiness and devotion, becomes the perfect disguise for a demon whose only goal is corruption. To appear in such a form is more than terrifying. It is blasphemous. It suggests that evil does not only attack from the outside, sometimes it invades the very heart of faith itself. And this idea isn't just born of cinema. Throughout history, accounts of demonic encounters describe similar blasphemous disguises, from priests reporting visions of the Virgin Mary turning into a monstrous figure, to nuns believing Christ himself appeared in twisted, mocking forms. These stories reveal a consistent pattern, the profane feeding on the sacred. When audiences see Valak in the veil, they are not just witnessing a Hollywood invention, they are witnessing an echo of countless occult accounts where the devil wears holiness as a mask. By rooting Valak in this disturbing tradition, the film bridges the gap between fiction and belief. It doesn't just invent a monster. It awakens the ancient fear that evil is not always outside us, but lurking within our most sacred spaces. So, is The Nun just another Hollywood horror film? Or is it something much darker, a reminder of truths whispered for centuries? Behind the gothic visuals and haunted convents lies an ancient warning that the church has carried since its earliest days. Demons wear disguises. They infiltrate the sacred, twisting symbols of purity into weapons of fear. Valak, the demon at the heart of The Nun, may not have stalked the halls of a Romanian convent as the film depicts, but his name and reputation are no invention. In medieval grimoires like the Lesser Key of Solomon, Valak is described as a powerful entity, a king of hell commanding legions, one who offers knowledge and treasures, at a terrible cost. His presence in those texts shows us something chilling, that the demon on screen is not fantasy, but drawn from a lineage of real beliefs and practices that endured for centuries. And perhaps that is why the film lingers long after the credits fade. It doesn't simply scare us with jump scares or shadows. It forces us to question how evil manifests in our world. What if it does not come with horns and fire? What if it hides in holy symbols, in places we think are safe? A church, a convent, even the robes of a nun. That is the true terror of The Nun. It isn't just a story about a demon. It's a story about how easily the sacred can be corrupted, and how thin the line between faith and fear really is. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the name Valak should never be spoken lightly.